Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to install Netbox, which is an application designed to keep record of all your circuits, all your devices, all the templates, all your IP addresses in a network infrastructure. Netbox is an awesome project started with DigitalOcean. It gives you a lot of ability to customize and install and document in a team with multiple folks, your organization, your IP addresses, your inventory, your wireless access, virtualization, circuits, different kinds of connections. If it's going to be only for your home network, it might be a little bit overkill. If it's going to be for a group or a small network, it definitely will help. In the sites for Netbox, you can actually have a little quick test drive of the admin interface. You can actually run this one just to kind of get familiar with the tool and eventually see what it looks like, to see organization devices and configuration of wireless connections, direct access, and eventually to see what actually you have listed in different kinds of locations and tagging, create associations, BRF in your network if you're using BRF, some route identifiers, some IP ranges, IP addresses. It's going to be a very, very useful tool that will let you actually accommodate some of those requirements. The racks is pretty amazing. You can actually have ability to see what it looks like, some closets, and eventually what is the physical space, the aggregation that actually looks like. That will really give you a good sense of urgency what it looks like, and if you need to add more devices, what the devices look like, and eventually how the connections are. So physically you can see what's your growth and what is actually having locations in multiple locations. Netbox is a framework that is developed using the Django framework. The Django framework is a framework similar to Ruby on Rails and some other frameworks that is developed in Python. If you're familiar with Python APIs, definitely you want to be right up your alley for network automation. In the backend, uses a postgresql database, which is used to store all the data that is actually required, and you can actually rely on the resilience and robustness of PostgreSQL. Additionally, uses a Redis as a caching server for the application, part of the Django framework, and it actually gets together and added to the framework as a global solution. The unicorn is actually some of the HTTP servers, actually for Python, is actually leverage on that to actually give you some of the functionality. Ultimately, for us, once we have it installed, we will leverage out of Nginx to actually do the overlapping and eventually becoming more production ready, which is Nginx, by the way, purchased by F5 load balancers, an awesome piece of technology. All this is going to be using Alma Linux. The Alma Linux is a very, very cool CentOS replacement. They did an amazing job between this one and Rocky Linux. There's a lot of opinions, but for me, Alma Linux works really well. It's pretty awesome. Everything is going to be virtualized in VirtualBox, and it's actually an amazing virtualization environment for your machine. And this video is going to be recording with ShareX. Thank you for making this recording video. With all that said, let's go ahead and let's go to the installation. You can actually always go to the installation and different steps: PostgreSQL, Redis, Netbox, Unicorn, HTTP server, and eventually the LDAP. But for now, as usual, we have a little quick cheat sheet right here to actually go ahead to the steps, and that will take us through the install. I will try to put the installs right there as usual on the video comments. Maybe if it's not possible, put a repo. As you can see, we have in the Oracle VirtualBox, I cloned some regular Alma Linux into Netbox. And with that, actually, I'm running the latest version, Alma Linux 9.1. I'm running as root. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing, I want to run some updates. And I can run the updates. And it installs some dependencies. Is the first part of that one. Just literally, it's going to let me go ahead and do just that. And run the update. And run the installation like GCC, some kind of installation from Perl dependencies, some Python dependencies, but 113 packages is going to be actually installing within that, which is listed like libxml, libpq, openssl, redhat, git, tar. I think that's going to be just taking some time depending on your internet speed. It's going to be able to accommodate those 113 dependencies just going through the DNF install. After that, what we're going to proceed to do that is actually disabling SELINUX. So eventually it's going to go right away. And we're just going to go ahead and wait until the installation of the package is finished and do the disabling the SELINUX. SELINUX should be actually done shortly. And it's moving ahead. Later, we're going to proceed with DNF, makecache, install Python 3, make the cache actually persistent, install some Python 3.9, which is a requirement for Netbox, and eventually actually do some links, symbolic links for the Python version that is required. So I think it's getting there to the 113 packages installed, running the transaction sets. Actually, so almost to be over. And seems like actually it's doing the installation. It didn't download, it's showing the installation right now. So DNF package manager is doing his homework. Again, this is going to depend on your speed on your CPU on your machine and the internet speed that you have as well. Once we have this moving, it's almost there. Or depends it's going to be complete. We can proceed with disable SELINUX. Let's make and build the memcache. And we can see that actually it's starting some dependencies like Python 3 pip, one of the package managers for Python. And it's actually continue doing the make cache. That's going to really help us to move the change here. Now we just install some of the extra dependencies for the DNF package manager. Some of those might not be required, but the ones that are pending is going to be able to install the respective dependencies and have those ready. We're going to remove the Python. I'm going to link the Python library, so eventually we have those dependencies. And if we check the Python version, of course we can do the pip3 version as well check, and we see that is there. I'll just go ahead and do the pip version. All right, so let's go ahead and it's time to install the PostgresQL database server. We install the PostgresQL database server. It's about 62 megs. It's downloading. It's going to take some time to download. DNF is going to install it for you. And later we're going to go ahead and initialize the database. Once it gets the binaries get downloaded, we can actually go ahead and start using it. Once it is finally installed, we initiate the database, and some of the installation requirements say that we need to go ahead and change some of these host files to MD5. Host on IPv6 and host normal. Once we have the replacement on HTTP5, we can restart, enable. So we survive on reboot. We enable the PostgresQL server. We log in as a PostgresQL server account, and we're in the database. What we want to do here is actually want to create a Netbox user with the password mynetbox123 and grant all the privileges on that particular database that we create. And that's it. Notice this is the password we're going to be using for now. Of course, this is just a testing of virtual machine. We can test it here real quick. Sudo user PostgreSQL user Netbox password, and eventually it's going to prompt for password, which is my Netbox _123, and there I am. and connects. So good. Now it's going to be time to start Redis and enable. So we're going to execute one little command as ping. So dnf install Redis. Yes, yes. So eventually it's going there and get a 4.7 mega packages for this cache server. It's going to download, it's going to install. What it's going to do is actually restart it and do that ping, reply upon, everything's good, life is good. Let's go ahead and do a make directory, which is going to be where a Netbox is going to live, opt netbox. Later we just kind of going to do a git clone out of the repo on GitHub for the community netbox.git. It gets the latest one, it gets actually added. We're going to add a user, netbox, and a password. We're going to change all the permissions on that particular folder to that user. We want to change to the folder opt netbox and copy the configuration example to configuration Python. And in this file, we have to do some editing. We need to actually go ahead and VI on that file. One of the things is allowed hosts. Allowed host is going to be added. The user is netbox. And as we see, it's my netbox 123. There's another part here where we have the secret key. It's becoming interesting. The secret key we have to generate with Python. So I want to do shell. I want to execute the Python generate key, and it's going to generate this key that I want to copy directly into the file and editing. I'm going to come back to the editing. And right here, I want to insert that key. That's all she wrote. Now from there, I can actually go to the cd opt netbox and perform the upgrade, shell script for upgrade. And what it's going to do is going to create it within the Python. It's going to create a virtual environment on opt netbox virtual environment. And it's going to actually download and compile all dependencies for application. In this case, there might be some dependencies. pip is doing the package. Imagine like a package manager within Python for those dependencies. It's going to actually see what the requirements are. It's going to start kind of downloading and executing some of those dependencies for a web application. But the beauty about this framework is this is going to take care of the magic of go ahead and download all the things in that virtual environment to be respective of what is actually happening from the operating system. Now, there's another way of install this, which is to be in a container. We probably go to that exercise later. I also like to go ahead and create a video for Debian. This is for Alma Linux, which is Red Hat based, CentOS. I like to go ahead and do the similar video for Netbox installation in Debian. Why not eventually take this one to a level that we can do in a Docker container or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. But just to see what is in the bare one metal, this is what actually is showing, the installation and how's everything looking for the dependencies, compiling and getting things. It might take some time. It's just depending on the speed of your processor. After that, we want to go ahead and create the admin user or the root user for the application that is actually added. We're going to link some cron job for the Netbox housekeeping, keeping all the clearing cache and clearing the house. We actually want to add in the firewall for 8000 to actually allow it, the port to be connected. We will actually go ahead and test it. And once we test it in the port 8000, we're probably going to do the translation on VirtualBox to be able to test it and see it. And then we want to proceed to the second part of the install, which is going to be more of the long run. So the Unicorn is going to be actually installed and just to see all the dependencies. So in the meantime, we can go back here and see how the compilation and actually the migrations for all those are taking place. This might take some time. And eventually, when you have to go to some of the migration processes, has to go through similar things. But the amount of effort that is actually doing all this is really, really pay off when you can have a central repository where you can store all your data, all your things, concentrate your resources, and again, have a single version of the truth with the dependencies for your circuits, your documentation. You can actually leverage out the API. You can actually import and use the web interface to insert data in a CSV or a literally copy paste and eventually feed and have everybody accessing and seeing that repo or knowledge of information that actually can help you for documentation purposes, for network automation, to have a single glass of paint and eventually make sure that everything's neatly organized and documented. So this might take a little time. It's conceivable that some of the newer versions on containerized versions, it might be more streamlined. You have to be more careful in terms of how you handle the storage, how you keep the storage in the database. This is actually just to prove the concept of how it's actually the installation going. And right now you can see it might take a little time, but it's worth the time once you see the end result. Again, the speed is going to depend on your CPU, its memory, and basically it's just one of the things that actually is going to take time. If you assign more CPUs to your virtual machine, it might be running a little faster. That's a fact, but if not, just let it take the time. The first time always takes a little longer, but as we can see, this is moving forward with different kinds of migrations and respective for each of those things in terms of the development. There's going to be more development. The development continues. I think this is something that is not going to stop. It's going to continue evolving, and eventually for those sysadmins, those network admins, it's going to give them the opportunity to see everything neatly organized, and in one place. So, cabling cleanup. It's only all this extra migrations that actually is doing things and applying some things for whether the schema or the views or part of the framework. Our next step is going to be create a super users once this creation and compilation of things go there. Eventually is going to identify from all these builders and all those classes and methods, eventually when everything takes shape and builds the portal, how is everything is going to be nicely organized and wired. Still taking some time. Virtualization is almost getting there to the end. Here we go. It's actually applying the last part of the things and moving a little bit faster. Finally, is when I can actually concentrate, give us a nice summary of the things that are actually done within this compilation. And there you go. Just finalizing the documentation, and he did his homework. He put even the documentation from the website as well to have us a nice reference in case we need to actually look at it. But once we finish this, which is about to prompt out any second now, we'll go ahead and create the administration user. And it's almost there. 534 files copied. That's good. Cleaning up the house, cleaning some content, and giving us back the prompt when actually finish and complete this installation. The second time you might run something like this, it'll be faster because there's going to be some things that are already in place. So it's just taking the first part, and it's actually taking some time. And some of the things that I did in the cron job, clearing the cache and everything, it will help. Knowing having some knowledge of the Django framework really helped at some point, do some customizations. Here we go, we finished it. You can actually create a super user account, and it's actually changing to the virtual environment, activating it in OPT Netbox. It's asking for the root user, the root email, which is going to be root at localhost, and password. I'm going to put Netbox for now, and that's fine. You just exit from here, leave the environment, go back, and let's go ahead and create a link for housekeeping and the firewall. So eventually can do the activate the opt netbox and run it as the port 8000 as a test. And for that exercise, we need to go ahead and come back here and allow port 8000 on the translation, the port forwarding. Let's go ahead and do the localbox, which is my machine, on port 8000, 10.0.2.15, port 8000. And then I can go back here and do localhost and port 8000. And here we go. I can do the root a user, root an netbox, and log in. And eventually, you can see that I have running Netbox. Import can actually be imported as a CSV. Size, regions, can have regions, multiple regions. You can have the racks and the roles. It's pretty cool. As a tester, it's running really good. You can see the request. I want to do Control C. I want to exit from the environment and go back here as root. So now that we see that it works, let's go ahead and put a proxy, which is the unicorn. If you want it, you can actually do VI or cut into that. There's not really much to it. It just works. You can copy the country servers and system controller reload. In that case, you can put a Netbox start service, restart it, and you can see the status of the service, and it's running. You can do the tunnel SSL and eventually install Nginx. And that will take some time to get Nginx up and running. Not a whole lot. It's right there installed. And it's pretty straightforward. The only thing we have to do left is VI on the etc in netbox.conf. So via some kind of side of the Nginx. And what we want to do, as you can see, you can use the 10.0.2.15, which is the internal IP of the virtual machine. If you happen to have another domain or you want to host your domain, here's where you put it, netbox, your netbox.com or whatever might be the name. With that, I will now go ahead and test it on Nginx. And seems like the configuration is okay, which is good. I restarted, so it should be responding now. And the last thing I want to do is actually install the policy core utils. I'm going to proxy back the 8001 and added 80 and 8443 in this case to that firewall. So once install the policy core utils and those other dependencies, we should be able to have the port 8001 translated to port 80, and that should be actually available for us once the commands on the port 8001 is doing translation and the things on the port get added correctly. In the meantime, I want to go ahead and do the network. I want to do port forwarding, in this case port 80. You could do it port 43. We have OK and OK. And this finish reload, that's fine. So I can go on localhost on port 80. And as you can see, the localhost, which is translated to Nginx, is actually browsing, is building the cache, and is having right here ready. I can do logout, and as you can do login again, just to make sure it's working, which everything's working on port 80. Nginx is working fine. I can do root Netbox. Voila, it's working fine. You can see the sites. You can use the import tool to do a CSV and just copy paste, and just depending on the options, you see the columns, what is required. You can do the CSV, upload in a heartbeat, copy paste right here and submit it. It could be CSV, JSON, or YAML. You can upload your sites, your regions. Could be the regions according to the YANA on GGP. You can actually have site groups. You can actually have locations. You can actually build locations and some dependencies, associate locations to regions. You can have cross connect. You have racks, and eventually add some racks, and eventually have the physical connection, just like we have before having added. You can change the mode to dark mode. Some of the settings. So here, so gonna look cool. You can actually change the dark mode. And some of these connections. But anyway, this is actually pretty cool. You have it running. You can have a way to organize and have everything concentrated in Netbox. I think it's a great work. I'm surprised that actually it's now becoming rapidly more popular. I'm sure some other frameworks will start trying to come with something, but at least for us as a testing, having everything connected, having a single version of the truth for your organization, your documentation, your automation, this seems to be a great project. Check it out. Hopefully you like the video. Give some thumbs up if you like it, and hopefully we can move forward with more agility, moving forward, and eventually with more collaborations among everybody. Hopefully you like it, and as much as I enjoy it, technology, stay cool, be safe, have a great day. Thank you for watching.